as we see from just about every report, every newspaper, as well as in Parliament this week, there's been quite a strong debate about the future of BEE. And boy, has it got hot in even in Parliament. Please listen to what President Cyril Ramaphosa had to say about BEE in response to a question put to him by the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Corné Mulder. Have a watch.
And I'm rather surprised and taken aback when I hear
what you just said now
that
is not different from what you've been
policies of Black economic empowerment militate against the growth of our economy. That I find quite surprising. There's nothing that gives our people joy, particularly Black people, as they go around and they find that this production facility is owned by a Black person. It warms one's heart. It makes us feel so good, country. And this is what baffles me by those who are opposed to Black economic empowerment. I say, what do you want to see happening? Do you want to see Black people continuing to play the role of laborers, drawers of water, hewers of wood, and consumers only? Why can't Black people be made to own productive aspects of our economy? Why can't they be rich as well? That is what means.
So this spirited defense of BEE by Cyril Ramaphosa needs some analysis. So I thought, let's tackle it here on the State of the Nation. And, you know, if you think about it, the reason that President Cyril Ramaphosa seems to be so steadfastly defending BEE is informed by one reason or another. And firstly, we have to understand the backdrop against which BEE is suddenly being debated. It's being debated in an economic climate of almost collapse of our economy. We see no growth for 15 years. We see the highest unemployment rates, official unemployment rates, a stagnant place. We are seeing cities degrade. We're seeing, not enough money to employ teachers and doctors. So against that economic backdrop, it's becoming increasingly difficult to defend. So why is Cyril Ramaphosa defending BEE so stoutly? Let's have a look at a few possible reasons. One possible reason is that he really believes that BEE will work, that it will grow the economy. Well, if that's the case, can we afford another 20 years to see it starting to work? And how will it work? How will changing management in a corporation lead to more people being employed by that corporation? In fact, if Black managers are so much better than white managers, surely they will make the company more efficient, leading to fewer people working in those companies, leading to less competition, and in fact, a worse economic outcome. So it's hard to think that he's defending BEE because he believes that it's good for the economy. The facts are not in his favor. Perhaps he believes that BEE is really good because psychologically it just makes Blacks feel that much better about South Africa. And I think there's an element of truth in that statement. Everybody needs to see themselves represented at the highest level, and that includes the economy. You couldn't have a situation in a country like South Africa where you had the businesses being run 100% by white people. That would be patently absurd and ridiculous, because it isn't where the talent is coming from in the future. But are we helping Black people to create a better psychology by parachuting people in, when most of South Africa has experienced state-owned companies in the ultimate act of Black economic empowerment being run by Black managers, to the point that Transnet can't run trains and Eskom can't keep the lights on? Parachuting in failure is psychologically damaging. So if our president believes that it's that warm feeling that blacks have to feel by seeing themselves in companies at senior level, which I agree with, then it's got to be on the back of success, not failure. What is the best test of that success? Two things, merit and merit. In one case, you've got managers that have got there because they're very, very good at their jobs and they rise to the position of management. And we've seen that in the private sector. We've seen many of our banks run by black CEOs highly efficiently. Or black people starting their own businesses, where you can really say, this product that I'm holding comes out of a factory started by a black South African, run successfully. That's what would really give people the kind of pride that will puff out their chests. But perhaps Cyril Ramaphosa's defense of BEE is a little bit more sinister. Perhaps it's because he understands that the way BEE works, that it benefits those closest to him. And he may, in fact, be the best example of that. You know, if I'm going to start a business with 100% of the risk and then having to give away 30% equity when my business is successful, who am I going to give that 30% to? I could give it to a promising staff member, or I can give it to somebody who is politically connected. And that way, I get protection. I get that person making sure that my interest and the interests of this business are looked after by law, by state action. Perhaps if you own a mine, you may want to get somebody who's really politically connected as your shareholder. He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to make sure that the mine's running or anything. He just sits at home. And you just ask him to do something when perhaps your miners are getting a little bit restless. Maybe their strike is turning violent, that you'd want somebody who could pick up the phone to the police minister and say, please come and take concomitant action leading to the shooting of 34 miners. Maybe that's what you see in BEE. Or maybe what Cyril Ramaphosa sees and why he needs to keep it going is because the ANC needs the money that comes out of the BEE transactions. We understand that their two biggest vehicles, the Batu Trust, Chancellor House, these are trusts that are basically just given shares in companies. They do nothing, they just get shares. And then you are empowered. And without that funding, the party would struggle. So you've got to protect it for all it's worth, or else perhaps those companies will find other shareholders or buy back those shares and just run the company themselves. Perhaps Cyril Ramaphosa believes so badly in the talents and skills of our black population that he doesn't feel that they can do it by themselves. Or if he does believe in their talents and skills, that should they make it, they will feel forever indebted to the ANC for having this law on there, and forevermore you've got something to hold on to them. Right? Either way, that's a pretty sinister way to go about it. But perhaps, and here's one that you may not have considered, perhaps our politicians have been so surrounded by mediocre people doing a bad job, you know, like cabinet ministers, that is their yardstick for how they think black people can operate in the rest of the economy. In other words, you don't have up-and-coming, youthful, exciting, intelligent people. You get comrades. You get struggle credentials. You get people that don't rock the boat, that don't ask questions. You'd never see great talent at play. You don't see what I'm seeing. You keep on seeing the same old plodders, you know, the 65-year-old Minister of Defense or the 70-year-old Minister of Mining. And that's your yardstick for black talent. Well, I got news for you. If you think that's black talent, you're looking in the wrong place. And then I would agree with you. If you think that all black talent looks like your cabinet ministers, we need a lot more than BEE. Perhaps you should start looking elsewhere. Perhaps you should start seeing perhaps what the Capitec CEO has seen and said this week, where he spoke about the fact that we've got a thriving informal economy that's employing literally millions of people, but it's not official employment. It's in what is beautifully called in South Africa the informal economy, meaning people just making a sort of a living on the side. Because let me let you in on a secret. If you're trying to survive on your 350 Rand a month social grant, you'd probably die of hunger by the 15th of the month. People are doing something for themselves. So this idea that, the majority of South Africans are useless people that couldn't survive without you is not true. Our people are creative. They're entrepreneurial. They have ambitions. The people who aren't creative and entrepreneurial and without ambitions are those ones sitting next to you in Parliament, not the ones out here in the private sector. They are getting on with it. They are doing jobs. They are not just employed just because you put some kind of color quota out there. I think our president has to start thinking a little bit higher of his own people because the talent is there. Where does this affirmative action idea come from? Well, it's a transplanted system that we got from Malaysia. Now, Malaysia is a country in which 70% of the population are what are known as indigenous Malays, and 30% of the population is a mixture of Chinese immigrants, Indian immigrants that have been there for generations. Let me know when this starts sounding similar. And following colonialism, it was felt that something had to be done to advance the majority of Malays. And they passed what's called their new economic policy, basically BEE with a different name, which helped native Malays get access to universities, get access to jobs, etc. Carbon copy. What happened? Well, for 45 years, nearly 50 years, that economy stagnated and went absolutely nowhere until the act got relaxed. In fact, the act got taken away, and now Malaysia has gone from being the laggard in Southeast Asia to being a very successful economy. They had to get rid of this act, which was highly criticized in the country and led to a massive brain drain throughout Malaysia, which took generations to overcome. Perhaps we should consider doing what they do and eventually scrap this thing. You see, I really have faith in the future of this country and our young people. I think that they just need better leaders. I think if there's anybody that needs affirmative action, it's those old people sitting in Parliament. Those people, I wish I could go and sit with them because I'd feel young. But they are the people without talent that need affirmative action, or else they wouldn't have got a job. The young people I see are just fine. They are talented. They are doing a great job. And I really believe that they are ready to carry the torch for this country. So I'm very happy that this bit of legislation, which is a hangover from the past and has done no real good in this country, is now finally put to rest. The country has moved past it. The minorities that we are trying to discriminate against are just too small in number, and they're not growing. It's time for BEE to go into the scrap heap of history and for the country to start showing some proper economic growth using the talent that we've got in this country. I've got to tell you, he's talented. He's a company that's brave enough to sponsor State of the Nation, and that's Pace Car Rental. If you've got a company that's brave enough to sponsor a podcast like State of the Nation, let us know so that we can improve the quality of the show. But I'll tell you what is improving the quality of the show is you watching it and by you subscribing to the channel. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you again next week on the weekly update.